Hi lovelies, welcome back to the channel Expert Empire. In today's video I'll be showing you how to draft this beautiful wrap palazzo jumpsuit with bell sleeves. If this looks like what you're interested in, make sure you watch to the end. To all my returning subscribers, thank you very much, and if you're new to this channel, kindly hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you will get notified each time I post a new video. Now let's dive right into the tutorial. So first I'll be starting with the back piece. I already have my fabric unfold and I've also ruled the shoulder line. Alright, from there I'll mark out 1.5 inches, which will serve as the zipper allowance, and I'll go ahead and rule a straight line. So every other measurement I'll be taking will start from that line that I ruled. Next, I'll go ahead and take the shoulder measurement and then measure 3 inches for the neck width and 1 inch for the neck depth. I'll go ahead and connect the points together, alright, and then extend that to the zipper allowance. From the shoulder line, I'll come down by 1 inch, which will serve as the shoulder slant. Then I'll rule the line there. I'll go ahead and mark the chest line, which you can do by dividing the bust circumference by 6 and then add 1.5 inches to it. Then I'll go ahead and measure the bust measurement, mark it right there, then divide that line into 2 and then come in by ½ inch. Then I'll curve it towards the bust measurement and also upwards toward the shoulder slant. Then next I'll add 1.5 inches at the bust for seam allowance. I'll go ahead and measure the length of the upper bodice. So the length I'm working with is 14.5 inches, but I'll add 1 inch seam allowance. That is ½ inch for joining the shoulder and then ½ inch for joining the upper bodice to the down part. I'll go ahead and rule a straight line across. Next, I'll take the waist measurement divided by 4, mark it right there, add 1 inch for that and also 1.5 inches for seam allowance. Next, I'll go ahead and connect the bust to the waist. After that, I'll measure the bust span, mark the point right there, and then from the shoulder I'll measure the chest line, which is 8.5 inches. Then I'll go up by 1 inch. That gives me 7.5 inches. That will be the point where the dart leg would start from. I'll go ahead and take in ½ inch on both sides. Alright, next I would take in ½ inch from the zipper allowance to eliminate any bulge at the back. Alright, after that I'll go ahead and cut out the back pattern. Take note, I'm not cutting out this curved armhole. I'm cutting out the straight one because this is the back piece. Alright, so I'll just go ahead and cut it out and then the back pattern is ready. So I'll just go ahead and notch those points, the zipper allowance and the darts. So next, to draft the front pattern, what I'll do is to fold in that zipper allowance that I have at the back fabric. I'll just fold it in like that and then pin it down to keep it in place. After that, I'll go ahead and place it on another fabric. You can see I've already trimmed out the armhole and the sides, so and the down part as well. I've trimmed it out. Then this is the center front. You can see it's unfold. I have 5 inches extension right there. You can add as much as you want. It depends on your preference. I'll go ahead and mark that shoulder point. You can see that shoulder point on the back. I'll mark it on the right, and then from the center front I'll come up by 2.5 inches, mark it right there, and then I'm going to be connecting that point at the neck to this point that I came up by. But before then, I'll go ahead and mark the dart leg that I had at the back piece. I'll mark the same dart leg on the front piece. All right, and I'll take in ½ inch on both sides. Then for the front darts, okay, it's not going to be like the back. It's not going to be as long as the back. What you do is measure your bust point. The bust point I'm using is 9 inches, so I'll come down by 1 inch. So whatever is your bust point, just come down by 1 inch from your bust point. That is where your dart leg for the front will start from. Then I'll just go ahead and connect it this way. Okay, so when I measured it there, I had 6 inches right there. So I'll go ahead and notch the dart, and then now I'll connect this point, the shoulder and the 2.5 inches I came up by, using a ruler. But I don't want it to have that straight look right there. I don't want it to be all straight, so I'll just go ahead and use my free hand to just draw a bit of curved line right there. So after that, I'll go ahead and cut it and then slit this part open. So now the front piece is ready, as you can see, guys. So this is the wrap top. Okay, so I'll keep that aside. To draft the trouser part, I placed my fabric on fold and I'll be drafting the front piece first. To know the width of fabric to place on fold, divide your round lap measurement by 2 and add 8 inches to it, or divide your hip circumference by 2. I measured the length of the trouser and added 2 inches seam allowance to it, then ruled a straight line which will serve as the waistline. From this folded part of the fabric, I'll mark out 3 inches. You can mark about 3 inches or more depending on how wide you want the palazzo to be. From the waistline, I marked out the hip point and ruled a straight line. I also marked the crotch depth, which is 11 inches, that is the hip circumference divided by 4 plus 1 inch. If you are a plus size, you can add more than 1 inch for ease, okay? On the hip line, I marked the hip divided by 4 plus 1.5 inches seam allowance. 1 inch will be for joining the sides, while half inch will be for the inseam joining. Then I connected that to the waistline and crotch line with a straight line. I extended the crotch line by 2.5 inches. To get this crotch line extension, all you have to do is divide your hip measurement by 4. Whatever value you get, you go ahead and divide it by 4 again. For example, hip 39 divided by 4 will give you 9.75. You divide that 9.75 by 4 again to give you 2.4. So I just approximated it to 2.5 inches. Okay, after I was done with that, when I measured what I have there on the crotch line, it is now 13.75 inches. From this angle, I came out by 1 inch, then connected the curve this way using my curve rule. To get the midpoint of the hemline, I'll measure what I have on the crotch line up to the extension and divide it by 2. I got 13.75 divided by 2 will give me 6.875. I approximated that to 7 inches. Then on the hemline, I will go ahead and measure the 7 inches starting from this straight line that I ruled earlier. Okay, all the measurements I'm taking is going to start from the straight line that I ruled. Okay, so to determine how wide you want the hem to be, go ahead and measure the wideness. Okay, just measure it, the floor length of your trouser, your palazzo trouser, or whichever length that you're working with. If it is 3/4, just go ahead and measure how wide you want the hem to be. Okay, so for me, I want it to be 33 inches wide. What I'll do is I'll divide the 33 by 2, and I got 16.5. I'll go ahead and divide that 16.5 again by 2. So in real sense, I'm actually dividing 33 inches by 4 because of course our trouser pieces is going to be 4. We have 2 for the front and 2 for the back. Okay, by the time you join it, you have your 33 inches or whatever measurement you're working with, you have it. Just divide it by 4, or what you do is divide the value by 2 and divide it by 2 again to get what you need to measure. Okay, so from the middle point of the hem, I would measure 8.25 inches towards that straight line that I marked earlier, and as you can see, the value is exceeding the line. That is the essence of having that excess 3 inches that we marked earlier. This is the reason for it, so that you can have an extension to make the hem to be as wide as you want. Okay, so from that same midpoint, I'll go ahead and mark the same 8.25 inches towards the right side of the hem. All right, then I'll go ahead and connect the points using a straight ruler. Another way you can do this is, especially if you don't want it to be too wide or as wide as this. You just measure what you have on the crotch line and then mark the same measurements on the hemline. Just divide it equally on the hemline, then connect it to the crotch line and the sides. On the waistline, I'll input the waist circumference divided by 4 plus 1.5 inches seam allowance and then plus 1 inch for that intake. Okay, so after I've done that, I'll connect it to the hip line. On the waistline, I'll come in by ½ inch, then from there I'll mark the bust span measurement and take out ½ inch on both sides as the dart intake. From the hip line, I'll go up by 2 inches and connect the dart leg, then add ½ inch seam allowance on the waistline for joining it to the upper bodice. Now the front part of the trouser is ready. I'll just go ahead and cut it out. After cutting out the front piece, I'll be using it to draft the back piece, and I also folded in the ½ inch seam allowance on the waistline. Note that the fabric is on fold, okay? On the waistline, I divided it into two and went ahead to divide the other half towards the crotch line into two again and marked the points. I went up by 2.5 inches on that point, and the 2.5 inches was gotten from the crotch extension that I have at the front piece. Okay, I'll extend the line on the waistline towards the side. Next, I'll extend the back crotch line by 2 inches, after which I will extend that line all the way down to the hem using a ruler. Next, I'll connect this point to the front crotch line. Then curve it to get the back crotch. Then measure what I have on the front waistline and input the same value on the back bodice in a slanted way. Now, I'll add the same zipper allowance I added to the upper bodice, which is 1.5 inches. I'll add the same 1.5 inches to the back bodice and extend it down to about 8 inches and connect it. So I also added ½ inch at the top of the back pieces. Okay, that will be for joining the trouser part to the upper bodice, just like we did for the front. Then I'll go ahead and connect this line down to the hemline. I came in by ½ inch from the zipper allowance, and from that point I marked the bust span measurement right there. I came up by 1 inch from the hip line. Then I connected that line in a slanted way to get the dart leg. Next, what I did was to take in ½ inch on both sides as my dart intake. You can see the dart is in a slanted way. So that is all you need to do with the back piece. There's no much much work on the back piece. Once you are done drafting the front piece, just place it on the back piece and do this little adjustments. I'm actually doing this because the back is higher than the front, all right, so that there will not be shortage there. That is why I'm doing this. So now the back piece is ready. I'll just go ahead and cut it out. Now for the pockets and pocket facing, I'll measure about 4.5 inches on the waist line, and after that I'll come down by 6 inches. Okay, then connect it. You can use a slanted line or a curve. For me, I'll be using the curve. That's the second line that is there. I'll be using that curved line to cut out the pocket. So next, I'll cut out a piece of fabric for the pocket facing. Fold it into two with the right side facing up then place it on the front piece. I'll trace out the hip curve to the waistline and cut it out. Then I'll open it and slit it to have two pieces, that is one for each pocket. Now I'll cut out the slanted curve line on the front piece that I drew earlier, which is the pocket. After doing that, I'll be using lining for the pocket because I don't want it to be bulky. All right, so I'll go ahead and trace out the pocket shape that I have on the front piece on the lining. After that, I'll cut it out, and I'll be having two pieces of that as well, making sure that it is of the same length and breadth with the pockets face. So that is all about the pockets. If you enjoyed watching this video, please give it a massive thumbs up, and if you're yet to subscribe to the channel, please subscribe, turn on your notification bell so that you get notified each time I post a new video. You can also share with your fellow soulmates and friends. And if you'd like to see how I sew this beautiful palazzo jumpsuit, let me know in the comment section. I'll see you all in my next one. Bye.